Are you absolutely certain your greenhouse is empty? Right now, while you're sitting comfortably indoors, thousands of microscopic enemies are lurking in the frame cracks and the top layer of soil, preparing to destroy your next harvest. Many growers make the fatal mistake of believing that winter frost alone will solve the whitefly problem. But what if I told you that this pest has learned to survive even the harshest winters by producing a kind of natural antifreeze in its body? Today, we won't just talk about pests. We are declaring war on them. I'm going to show you a simple yet deadly effective plan of action that won't give the whitefly a single chance to overwinter successfully. Ready to learn the secret to a spotless, clean greenhouse? Let's get started. Before you even reach for the sprayer, let's understand exactly who we are dealing with. The whitefly isn't just a tiny gnat. It's one of the most resilient pests on the planet. In recent years, we're seeing less of the common greenhouse whitefly and more of the tobacco or cotton whitefly, species that have developed massive resistance to chemical treatments. While the adult whiteflies, the imagos, generally die off in the winter, they leave behind the worst possible legacy: eggs and puparia. The puparium is essentially a false cocoon, a tough capsule that shields the larva from both chemical attacks and extreme cold. They can hide up to 4 inches deep in the soil or be tucked away in microscopic cracks in your polycarbonate panels. This is exactly why a quick surface treatment in the fall often fails, and come spring, you see swarms of white moths all over again. The first step, and this is critically important, is the complete and total clearance of all plant residue. You might think dried tomato stalks are harmless once the season is over, but they are the perfect overwintering host for pests. You need to remove absolutely everything. Don't just pull out the main plants. You must meticulously collect fallen leaves, any tying material you used, and even the top layer of mulch if you applied one. Every dry piece of debris is a potential bunker for whiteflies. Burn this refuse or haul it far away from your garden area. Never, and I mean never, add residue from an infected greenhouse to your compost pile. You will only guarantee spreading the infestation throughout your entire garden next season. This is the absolute foundation. Without this crucial step, everything else we do will be pointless. Now let's talk about washing the greenhouse, but forget about simply rinsing it down with a hose. Water alone won't dissolve the greasy film and waxy residue where pest eggs hide. We need an active cleaning agent. The most affordable and effective solution is a mixture using basic household soap or potassium soft soap. But here's the key detail. The solution must be thick and highly concentrated. Apply it generously with a brush or a sponge, making sure the foam penetrates every joint and gap between the frame and the polycarbonate panels. Up to 30% of the pest population spends the winter specifically in these crevices. Leave the foam on the surfaces for at least 1 hour. This allows it time to break down the protective casings of the pests. Only then should you rinse it off. Now let's talk about the toughest area of the war, the soil. This is precisely where the main pest population hibernates. A lot of people suggest simply turning over the soil, hoping the frost will kill the larvae. That is a myth. Whitefly pupae are incredibly resilient and can easily survive significantly freezing temperatures. If you just flip that soil layer, you might actually be helping them by insulating them with snow or loose dirt. Our goal must be to disrupt their overwintering chemically or biologically. If the infestation was truly severe, you should consider physically removing the top 2 inches of soil. Yes, it's labour-intensive. Yes, it's hard work. But this guarantees the removal of 80% of the pest reserve from your greenhouse. Replace that layer with fresh, sterile compost or peat moss that is certified pest-free. If digging out all the soil is too radical a step, then let's look at chemical treatments. But wisely. Pouring boiling water over the soil is an old-school approach, but it's not efficient for large areas because the ground cools off too quickly. Instead, it's better to use copper-based treatments such as copper sulfate. Copper sulfate acts less as an insecticide and more as a powerful disinfectant or fungicide. It kills the harmful molds and fungi that pests often feed on or rely on. thereby creating a hostile environment for them. However, keep in mind that copper accumulates heavily in the soil. Because of this, you should only use this method once every 3 to 4 years at most. The concentration must be the working dose, strictly following the directions, so you don't completely destroy the beneficial microflora along with the bad stuff. Let's talk about a popular method, using sulfur candles. They're quite controversial. On the one hand, the sulfur dioxide released when they burn gets absolutely everywhere. It penetrates every single crack and crevice, killing all living pests. On the other hand, it is highly corrosive to the metal frame of your greenhouse. If you have a galvanized frame, a sulfur candle can effectively ruin it in just a couple of seasons. However, if your frame is painted or wooden, this is actually one of the absolute best ways to eliminate persistent pests like whiteflies. It's crucial to completely seal the greenhouse before you use the candle. Tape up any gaps and make sure all vents and windows are tightly closed. And remember, safety is absolutely key. Light the candle and get out immediately. The gas is extremely toxic to humans. Now let's talk about biological controls that actually work even when the weather turns cold. We're focusing on soil fungi like Metahizium and Boviria. These are true microscopic predators. When the spores land on the chitin layer of an overwintering larva, they germinate, penetrate the shell, and literally consume the pest alive. Unlike traditional chemical pesticides, whiteflies cannot build up resistance to these fungi. You need to apply Metahizium treatments to moist soil. The ideal time is during a winter thaw, or if you keep your greenhouse temperatures above freezing. Once the mycelium establishes itself, it will protect your beds all winter long, wiping out not only whiteflies, but also pesky wireworms. There's another interesting method that people often overlook, using tobacco dust or tobacco fumigators. Unlike sulfur-based methods, these are completely safe for metal structures. Nicotine is one of nature's most powerful neurotoxins for insects. Tobacco fumigation is effective against any remaining adult pests, but it may be weaker when dealing with pupae. However, if you spread tobacco dust directly over your garden beds and lightly incorporate it into the soil, you create uninhabitable conditions for the larvae. The nicotine slowly releases into the ground, essentially poisoning the pest's immediate environment. This method is milder and more environmentally friendly, but it does require consistent application. Don't skip the crucial winter deep freeze, but make sure you do it right. Leave your greenhouse doors and vents wide open during the coldest snaps of the season. Our goal is to let the soil freeze as deeply as possible. But here's the important trick. Snow acts as a powerful blanket. If you pile snow into your greenhouse early in the winter, you're essentially insulating pests, like whitefly, from the killing cold. If you have a known pest problem, avoid doing this early. Only add snow late in the season, closer to spring, specifically for moisture retention. During those periods of brutal cold, the ground needs to remain bare and dry. This ensures the frost penetrates to its maximum depth and eliminates any overwintering larvae that didn't burrow deep enough. Let's talk about cover crops. Many growers plant mustard in the fall to revitalise the soil. That's great, but if you have whiteflies, there's a critical caveat. If you plant these cover crops and don't incorporate them into the soil before winter, they can actually become a bridge for the pest's survival. Whiteflies can lay their eggs on late sprouting mustard plants. Therefore, the rule is strict. All cover crops must be cut and incorporated into the soil before the onset of sustained cold weather. Do not leave this green matter to overwinter on the surface. Once tilled in, the decomposing mustard releases essential oils into the soil, which double as a natural fumigant against soil-borne pests. Another often overlooked risk area is the weeds surrounding your greenhouse. The whitefly doesn't respect your property boundaries. If you have nettles, ground elder, or chickweed growing around the structure, the pest will happily overwinter there. Come spring, they'll make a beeline for any open vents and immediately attack your tomatoes. You absolutely must clear the vegetation around the perimeter of the greenhouse, at least 1 metre, but ideally 2 metres. Treat this area with the same chemicals you use inside, or if nothing else, simply turn the soil over. This creates what we call a dead zone, or safety buffer, that makes it difficult for crawling stages and larvae to traverse and access your plants. Let's talk about sanitizing our gardening tools. A lot of the time, we're actually the ones reintroducing whiteflies. Shovels, rakes, seed trays, and even your gloves. All these items may have come into contact with infected plants. Make sure you take the time to soak your smaller hand tools in a solution of bleach or copper sulfate. As for fabric gloves, it might be easiest to just throw them out and buy new pairs, or wash them thoroughly at 90 degrees Celsius. If you use reusable tying twine, that needs to be boiled as well. This might seem like a small detail, but remember, just one female whitefly that survives the winter can produce thousands of offspring in a single month come spring. There's a clever technique often referred to as the provocation or forcing method. This is ideal for those who can access their garden or allotment early in spring, when the sun is warm, but the outside temperature is still quite low. You simply close up the greenhouse. The interior temperature rapidly spikes, effectively simulating an early summer. This tricks the pest into waking up and coming out of hibernation. This is the critical moment. You immediately hang up yellow sticky traps and apply a potent insecticide, such as Actara. The awakened hungry pests are hit hard before they have a chance to reproduce. Afterward, you open the greenhouse again, allowing the cold air to freeze out the remaining survivors. This temperature swing method is exceptionally effective. The most critical step is thoroughly inspecting the seedlings you bring home this spring. All your hard work over the winter will be undone if you bring in a Trojan horse from the house or the nursery. Houseplants like fuchsias and geraniums are frequently silent carriers of whitefly. If you grow your seedlings anywhere near these indoor plants, the risk of infestation is nearly 100%. Implement a strict quarantine immediately. Treat all seedlings with a systemic insecticide like Tepeki or an equivalent product, roughly 1 week before moving them into the greenhouse. This provides crucial internal protection for the plants during the initial establishment period. Let's break down how to use Farmiod. This is an extremely potent, iodine-based preparation that serves as a powerful disinfectant. It is perfect for the final sanitization of your greenhouse after you have cleaned it with soap. To prepare the mixture, combine 100 milliliters of Farmiod with 10 liters of water. Then spray the entire structure thoroughly, the walls, the ceiling, and the soil. Iodine is highly penetrative and works by eradicating residual mycelium and pest eggs. Furthermore, the iodine vapors themselves are also lethal to flying insects. However, a crucial warning: Farmiod stains heavily, and you must always wear a respirator and full protective gear when applying it. For smaller greenhouses, another popular yet highly effective method is drenching the soil with a very dark, concentrated solution of potassium permanganate. This is a powerful oxidizing agent. It essentially works by destroying organic matter, including the protective casings of insect pupae. However, a major caution point: potassium permanganate significantly acidifies the soil. If your soil is already acidic, you absolutely must follow this spring treatment by applying either dolomitic lime or wood ash to restore the pH balance. Maintaining this balance is crucial to ensure you don't damage your future seedlings. Now let's talk about your neighbours. Whiteflies travel easily. If your neighbour's greenhouse right next door is completely overrun with pests, your efforts to keep things sterile won't last long. Try to coordinate simultaneous treatment with them. This is known as collective phytosanitary safety. If you can't manage to convince your neighbour, hang fine mesh insect screening over your ventilation openings. This is a physical barrier that genuinely works. The whitefly is a poor flyer. It mostly just drifts along on air currents, and the screen will become an insurmountable obstacle. We need to talk about the concept of chemical rotation. Whiteflies are notorious for building resistance fast. If you've been treating them with the same type of compound all summer, make sure you switch to a preparation from a completely different chemical group for the winter cycle. For example, if you relied heavily on neonicotinoids, your next option should utilize pyrethroids or an organophosphate. Rotating active ingredients is the only guaranteed way to break through the population's established immunity. Always read the labels carefully. The brand name might be different, but the active ingredient could be exactly the same. Our ultimate goal is to strike them with chemistry they haven't developed a defense against yet. If your greenhouse has wooden elements, don't overlook them. This includes bed borders, stakes, and shelving. Wood is a porous material, which makes it an ideal place for pests to overwinter. All wooden components should be treated with a thick lime wash mixed with copper sulfate. The lime seals the pores, while the sulfate acts as a powerful disinfectant. If the wood is old or showing signs of rot, replace it immediately. Don't hesitate. Rotten wood is a major breeding ground for both insects and plant diseases. Ideally, consider replacing wooden elements entirely with materials like plastic or composite sheeting, which offer fewer hiding spots for pests. I want to talk about the product 30 Plus. This is essentially horticultural mineral oil, designed to form an airtight, suffocating barrier. While commonly applied in the garden during the early spring or dormant season, it's also an outstanding treatment for your greenhouse structure. The oil emulsion encapsulates overwintering eggs and pupae, effectively blocking their oxygen supply. They simply smother. Because this is a mechanical control method, pests cannot develop any resistance to it. Be sure to coat all the joints, seams, and hard-to-reach crevices of the frame thoroughly. And finally, the comprehensive approach. Don't just rely on one method. The ideal plan looks like this. Remove all debris and residues, wash everything down with soap, treat the structure with an approved fungicide or copper compound, like farm-grade iodine, inoculate the soil with metorhizium, and then let it freeze solid. Yes, that sounds like a lot of work, but trust me, battling swarms of whiteflies in the heat of summer, when your tomatoes are ripening on the vine, is 10 times harder and much more toxic. It's better to spend one solid day on this during winter or late fall than to lose your entire harvest later. Do this now, and your greenhouse will thank you come spring. Quite the reveal, wasn't it? Turns out just leaving the greenhouse open all winter won't cut it. We've covered a whole arsenal of methods today, ranging from simple cleanup and scrubbing to biological warfare and powerful chemical treatments. The main thing I want you to remember is this. The whitefly does not forgive negligence. They thrive in the spots we missed or overlooked. But now you are equipped with the knowledge and a clear strategy. Try applying just 3 of the methods we discussed, and you will see a massive difference next season. Thanks so much for watching all the way through. If you found these tips helpful, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss my upcoming video on spring seedling preparation. And now, a question for you. What's the weirdest or most unconventional pest control method you have ever tried, and did it actually work? Drop a comment below. Let's discuss it.